This video will review the selection tools that we have available to us in Photoshop and the how to make your food face collage, how to start it. Okay, so again in Google Classroom is your spec sheet here. Okay, so make sure as you're working you review this. So the first thing we're going to do is open up Photoshop and we are going to create our new document, and then we're going to go over our selection tools. Okay. So when I'm in Photoshop, I will go File, New, and I'm going to do an 8 by 10 document. That's 300 pixels per square inch. Okay, and hit OK. And we just have a plain white background right now. Okay, so this is our basic canvas that we're going to start with. I'm at home right now, so I don't have access to all of the files, but when you guys are at school and you open up Bridge, you'll be able to link directly to all of these food images. So here is the path for that. Okay, so you would go to Marquee Digital, Selections, Collage, and then there's a whole big folder of food photographs available for your use. Okay, and I'm going to talk to you guys about how to download custom photos or photos that we don't have for you if you want to do that. So I'll show you that in the next step. But let's pretend that this is the big folder with all of the images. So in Bridge you have these nice thumbnails so you can see exactly what you have and what you might want to start with. Okay, so to start, I'm going to open up one of the easier images. Okay, so I'm going to open up the orange slice here. So this opens it up in another document. I already had my lemon open. Here's my document here and my orange slice. Actually, while we're here, I'm going to go File, Save As. Okay, which you guys should always be doing. So I'm going to go to, where's my demo? You guys would save this in your Works in Progress folder, but I'm going to just save it here. So I'm going to call this Marquee Food Face, and make sure you save it as a PSD to maintain your layers. Hit Save. Okay, great. So now I know what document this is. Okay, so if I'm here, we've talked a little bit about the selection tools. You have your Marquee selection tools, and then above here you have some different options for those. Add to selection, subtract from selection, and then intersect. So let's take a look at what that looks like. If I just draw a rectangle here, this is create a new selection every time I click. So then if I clicked over here, it's a new rectangle. Okay, if I click on add to, now both selections stay, and I could create whatever shape I need to that way. If I click on subtract from selection, now I can make it different in whatever way I want. Okay, and then intersecting will deselect certain areas. Oops, no pixels were selected. You guys won't really need that one for this project, so we're going to stick with new, add, and subtract. You can also click and hold and get to your elliptical marquee tool, and that will give you the circles. For both elliptical and rectangular, if you hold down the shift key, you will get a perfect circle. Okay. And again, there's add to and subtract, as well as intersect. Okay. Up here, feathering means pixels are partially selected, so you get sort of like a fuzzy edge. Okay. So let's talk about how to select this orange. We could try to use the elliptical tool. Maybe we can hit shift and drag, and then obviously it's really difficult to get your elliptical tool to line up exactly the way you want it. So I'm going to hold down the shift, the space bar, and while I'm holding down the space bar, I can actually move this around. Okay, and then if it's not perfect, you could always go to add to, but because this is an organic shape, chances are this will not work. So I'm going to go to one of my other tools. Okay, there is the Lasso Tools here. Okay, and that's freeform. The first one is like a freeform one, so I could try my best to draw along the edge of this with my mouse, but it'll be tedious and really hard to get a perfect selection, as you can see. Okay, so if I click and hold, I could get to the Polygonal Lasso, which if you just sort of click, it draws a bunch of straight lines. And if you guys paid attention in geometry class, what do they say about circles and straight lines, right? But this, again, will not give you a perfect selection. Okay? The edge will be difficult to achieve. Magnetic lasso tool could work for you. So if you just drag your mouse along the edge and you click every, few seconds, Photoshop sort of forces that tool to stay along. Like I could try to go out, but it sort of wants to go back in. Okay, so it's sensing the differences in pixels. Or I could do a section at a time, go back to where I started, and then you'll see you get sort of like this little circle that pops up. That means you're closing in the selection. Now I kind of messed up over here, so this is where my subtract from selection tool would come in handy. So I'd go along and click along the edge of this orange. And back to where I started, and I get that little circle that pops up. And now that's subtracted too. And I could go along and do this whole orange, okay? Because the background on this picture is perfectly white, it might be easier to use one of these tools, okay? So let's look at quick selection tool real quick. Yeah. Okay. So what this does is you sort of brush on a selection, and it again will sense the difference between sort of the object and the background, and you can change your brush size depending on what you're selecting and how much detail you need. But this works pretty well. It gives you a really good start. It can be a little bit rough, but it gives you a good start. Okay, so that would be the quick selection. And you could also try Magic Wand. So let's click on New. So for this, because my background's all white, if I just click anywhere in the background, it's going to select all the white pixels. Okay, and that might work for me as well. Okay, now with a lot of these selection tools, you have this refine edge option here, which is really important to use. Okay, because we want to make sure our edges are perfect. We don't want jagged edges or background showing. So click on refine edge. You can change. Oh, hold on. Right now my background's selected, so I want the orange to be selected. So if I go to select inverse, or I can also press Control and click and get to select inverse. So now my orange is selected. Now I'm going to click on refine edge, and then we'll be able to see exactly what's been selected in our image. Okay, so we want to make sure the edges are nice and clean. First thing you should always do is just kind of click on Smart Radius, and you can scooch this over a little bit. You can smooth the selection out. You can also change what it looks like. So we can do this on a black background. And that way we can make sure that our edges are really crisp. Okay. Feathering would partially select pixels. So that gives you like that soft edge, which I don't think we want in this object. And every object is different, so you might have to play around to get you the perfect combination of these sliders. So smoothing will get the edges nice and soft, so you don't have really jagged areas. Feathering is partially selecting, so you sort of have transparency almost. Contrast creates more of an edge definition, and shifting the edge will actually move it over. So you could bring it out. Maybe you want that white selected, but we don't. So then maybe you want to bring it in a little bit and make sure there's no white background selected. Okay. Let's go down here. And you can click here, Show Original. And you can see how much we've improved our edge by just a few quick little things, okay? Down here, output to selection, there's a couple different options. We're going to get into this whole new layer with mask and all that kind of stuff later. So right now, just output to a selection and hit OK. Now this is what we can drag into our final piece, okay? Before I show you how to do that, you can also go to Select, Save Selection. This is really important when you get into more complicated projects and you spend a lot of time selecting something and you want to save it so that the next time you open up that document you have that selection. So you can go to Save Selection. I'm going to call this just orange, that's what we selected, and just hit OK. And then that way, if I save this document as a PSD and then reopened it tomorrow, I could get the same exact selection, okay? So now I'm going to click on my Move tool, and I'm just going to click here. I'm going to drag it up to this tab here once that document opens, and I'll click in the middle. I'm just going to hit OK. Okay? So then this is my, let's say it's the start of my face. All the dimensions of these files are very different, so you might have to resize things. So if you hit Shift, you can drag this out to get it to be the size that you want it to be, accept those changes. You have the Move tool selected and you can move that around. So that I don't get confused, I'm going to rename this layer right now. Orange, I'll just call it Orange Face, okay? And that's good. Okay, and now looking at an image like this, you could try to do a background selection and do the inverse with the magic wand tool. That might not work though. So I would do probably quick selection, and then again go to select, refine edge, or you can also just click here to that shortcut. Change the view accordingly. Always do smart radius, and you can play around, and let's just pretend I like that. And I will click back on my Move tool, drag up to and there's my lemon. Okay, now I could go Edit, Transform, and Rotate. Maybe I want this lemon to be the body. Maybe I want the lemon to face this way. I don't know. Okay, and I can also hit Shift. No, we're going to accept those. And then I could go to Edit, Transform, Scale, and hit Shift. And now I have a body. Okay. And now maybe I need to move my face around a little bit. So I'll pick that up and move it. Maybe I want my orange face on top of my lemon so I can just pick up those layers and rearrange them depending on what I want to do. I'm going to click here. I'm going to call this lemon body, or I'll go lemon torso. Okay. Going back to bridge, we can open up more files. So I'm going to try this one. This one's really complicated. Okay, because you have multiple blueberries here and you also have this very complicated background. It's not like a simple black or white background. So we're going to try a variety of tools. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in on the little blueberry that I want. Let's say it's this one. Okay, and what I might try is quick selection first and just kind of see how that goes. And see how it's picking up some of that background. So I could click on minus. Maybe I'll change my pixel size so it's a little bit smaller. Try to get rid of some of that. But this might be more tedious than it's worth. Okay. So what I might do is switch to my magnetic lasso tool. I'm going to click on Add to Selection. And I'll go around my blueberry carefully along the edge. clicking every few seconds. Okay. And then once you get to the end, again, you'll see that little circle pop up, and now you have a closed selection. And you can change different things here that will help the accuracy, but you're going to have to play around with all of those things. But again, very important, refine edge, smart radius. Doesn't look so great. Let's go here. We'll smooth this out. Maybe we'll expand it a little bit. Maybe we'll up the contrast, the edge. Okay, and if that looks good to you, hit OK. Move tool and drag it to that next layer. So, oops. Now it's behind the orange, right? You can't see it now, and you're like, oh no, where'd my blueberry go? Okay, let's rename this to Blueberry Eye. And now I just have to pick this layer up, drag it on top. When you see that little line pop up, that's when you know it's in the right order. So here's my blueberry. Okay, now, right now I have 3 layers and 3 different selections. I could Command J this layer. Sorry, I'm not clicking in the right spot. Okay, here we go. And now I have 2 blueberries. This doesn't count as 10 different selections. It would count as a separate layer, but it wouldn't count as 10 different selections. So keep that in mind as you work, okay? Going back to bridge. Did I hit on everything? Let's see. Let's try the strawberries. Okay, so I have 2 strawberries here. I could decide that I only want 1. And something like this, we might have some issues with selecting. So I want to try something with you guys real quick. So I'm going to do Magic Wand. Okay, so that selects all those white background pixels. I'm going to hit Shift, or you could just click on Add to Selection and add in some of that shadow area. Okay, now see, I just used the Magic Wand. Now I'm going to switch to Magnetic Lasso. So right now, what I'm selecting is things I don't want selected. So I'm going to again make sure Add to Selection is selected. And I'm going to go along and select the area in between the strawberries. And select that whole strawberry, go back to where I started. Okay, so now everything but this strawberry is selected. I'm going to hit Control and click Select Inverse. So now this strawberry is actually what's selected. Now I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And this edge got a little bit funky, so let's smooth that out. Maybe now is the time to hand draw. Maybe now you want to do the lasso tool. And make sure Add to Selection is checked, because now you can smooth out those areas that could be a little bit funky for Photoshop to figure out the differences between things. See how there's some white highlights along the edge because it's kind of a shiny little fruit? You can get those guys in there too. Okay, and then I want to subtract from selection. I don't want this down here. Okay, but here's a really good example of what we can do, because this is sort of like this weird fuzzy area. Okay, so I'm going to click on Refine Edge. Okay, and we can see that that's not very clean. It's not very nice. Okay, so I'm going to click on Smart Radius, go here, and then you can try this brush where we're going to refine the radius tool, and we can just kind of brush on where there's like some funkiness. Okay, and it will sort of smooth out that selection. All right, it works. That tool works better on like things like hair and whatnot. So I'm going to drop it in here, and now we have strawberry. I could rotate this maybe, accept it. We can go to transform and do scale. Okay, so now I have to make sure I hit shift every time I do this to constrain the proportions. You could also click on this little chain link in between width and height. Okay, because if I don't do that, and I just go like this, I'm going to have a weird looking strawberry. Okay, so I don't want to do that. So let's say that that's my strawberry, hitting shift, and that's my strawberry nose. Accept, double click, strawberry nose. Okay, and you're going to add a smile, a mustache, ears, hair, a bow tie, hands, arms, whatever you want. Be creative. Your fruit person could be doing something, okay, playing a game, whatever. Now, the last step that you guys want to do is to fill in the background. Okay, so in your background layer, you can click on the paint bucket tool, and then down here's your color picker. Pick a color that you think complements your food person. Okay, you could also click on the gradient tool here and fill your background with a gradient. It's up to you on how you want to do that. Okay, and then when you're all done, you want to add in a blank layer at the top your signature. Okay, I don't think I have mine on this. I don't. That's okay. Let's just pretend this leaf is my signature. Okay, and there's my signature. All right, so that about sums it up. I hope that clarifies some things. Again, practice makes perfect. Experiment, watch the videos that are posted, and every time you do a selection, you definitely want to click on this refine edge option and play around, because I don't want to see those jagged edges. Just to show you what that could look like, let's view. I could use my magic wand tool, select all the white, and then hit select inverse and drag this in here. Oops, where'd it go? Why is this not working? That's another option. If you guys don't want to do the move and drag thing, you can also do Command C and Command V. So from here you would do Command C to copy your selection, and then here Command V to paste your selection. But without doing Refine Edge on this orange, you can see this jagged white border and these weird little funky bits that come through. Okay, because I didn't do Refine Edge where those things didn't happen to this one. So you want nice, clean, perfect selections. Okay, make sure you guys rename everything so that you don't get confused. You know what's what and what layer. Edit, transform. So try scale and rotating. And you can also try under edit transform the flipping, flip horizontal, flip vertical. Okay, and that about does it. So I hope that explains the project. Good luck, have fun, and most of all, be creative. Okay, thanks for watching. So I forgot to show you guys how to add images from the internet. So let's say you want a specific type of fruit and you can't find it. So you could type in the name of the fruit, go to tools. Okay, you want to go to size. I would go to large, so it's a high resolution image. Under type, you could do photo. Okay, so that you know that it's a realistic fruit. Okay, so let's say you like this one. Alright, so click on view image. And then there you have the pineapple. So a couple things you could do. You could hit control, click, save image as. And then you could save this into either your originals folder, your works in progress folder, or you could save it into the main food face folder. It's up to you. I'm going to save it here for myself. Save. Or what you can do is click and drag and drop it on top of Photoshop, and then it's going to open it up in Photoshop. And then you can go through your selection tools. Another thing I forgot to show you was in the magic wand selection tool, like if I want to select the white background on this, a couple different things. One is tolerance. So changing this number, I think the default on this is like 10. So changing this number will make the tool more or less picky. Okay, so if I click here, it stops here because that leaf is cutting off where my white is able to continue. So if you guys zoom in, you can see how that sort of creates like a border there. Okay, and then these like little white bits in here aren't selected because it's not perfectly white or whatever the case may be. So what I can do is let's go fit on screen. So let's change the tolerance to 20. And let's see if we can get more in between those leaves selected. And it looks like, nope, we still didn't get this. We got down in here, so that's good. So what's happening is when you're in your selection tool, because contiguous is selected, it's only selecting the white areas that are touching. Okay, so if you deselect contiguous, I'm going to zoom out again, and I click here again, now it goes over to all of the white areas, even if they're not touching. So anything that Photoshop finds to be within the same pixel color, it will select. You can click on Add to Selection and then try to pick up some of the shadow area. Okay. Or you could let's try a new one and up the tolerance to 30. And that selects a little bit more. Let's try 50. Okay, a little bit more. We're just missing the shadow. But even from here, you could switch to your magnetic lasso tool and finish the selection. You know, whatever you need to do. Okay, so I'm just going to go to magic wand, add to, and finish that up quite roughly. But say now it's selected. See this darker gray area? It selected some of the shadows that are in here. So I'm going to go to select inverse. Now my pineapple is selected. Now I'm going to just switch to quick selection and add to. And I'm just going to go in here and select this. But see now if I did this, doing this quite quickly and it's a little bit sloppy, Now, I'm going to click on my Move tool, pick the selection up, drag it to my food face file, and drop it in. Now if I were to zoom in on this, you see that I'm missing parts. Okay, I have jagged edges. It's not a clean selection, and that's not okay. Alright, so when you're here, you want to take your time, select everything, make sure you also go to your Refine Edge option and fix your selection before you copy it into your final document. Okay? And you don't have to save these images from the internet, but you can. It will be helpful. Okay, and again, make sure you're changing the names of your layers. You can pick up layers and drag them around to reorganize them if you want one thing below another thing. Okay, and again, that should do it. Thanks for watching, and good luck, and have fun.